Oh boy. Yeah, let me see. Did that work? I might need to slide it over. I really think I should slide this over. Why not? Let me see. I think it's good enough. What y'all think? That's good enough? Should I slide it over to the left? We good? Man, that's good enough, man. Right? Let me see. Man, that's good enough. That's good enough. Well, I could adjust it a little bit more, but man, we here now. What's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, members of the Roll the Tape film crew, welcome to another episode of Roll the Tape Podcast with Manager Marty. I'm your host, Manager Marty. We have some boxing that we need to talk about today. We're going to address the business of boxing. But before I get into all of that, please feel free to subscribe right now. You don't have to wait if you haven't done so already. If you're not a part of the Roll the Tape film crew family, you can subscribe right now. You can join. There's a join button there. You can just click the like button as soon as you come in. You know how we do each and every week. Trying to get back to my 3 times a week. We shall see. Come on in. Come on in. Before you have a seat, come on in, grab a plate. I have some food for you, some food for thought. Come on in and have a seat. Double salute to my guy, Jeremy Austin. He's a member of the channel, also a supervisor of the Roll the Tape film crew. Come on in. All the heavy hitters is in the chat. They all here. We have more people coming. Just come on in, come on in. There's a lot of room. We have a lot of room. We have to talk about Teofimo Lopez dissing Terence Crawford. We have to talk about that as the viewership is increasing exponentially. We have to talk about that. We also have to talk about Bob Arum, because we know Teofimo Lopez is promoted by Top Rank. And we have to talk about Bob Arum because Jared Anderson is also promoted by Top Rank. So we have to talk about Jared Anderson as well. Tyson Fury and Usyk, it might be still going on, but it might be over by now. I'm not sure, but they had a press conference today, or they're having a press conference. I think it's done already out there in the UK to promote their rematch. Usyk Fury 1 was a classic fight. And they're going to definitely get it on again in a rematch. I think December, they're going to get it on. We're going to do a live breakdown of that fight. Not today, but we're definitely going to do a live breakdown and analysis of that fight still to come. Regis Prograis. When we come back here on Friday, we're going to talk about Regis Prograis and Catterall. They're going to get it on. Hopefully the winner will move closer to a title shot. We're going to see. That's going to be a good fight too. Got some good boxing coming up. Good boxing coming up. I'm working on Friday. Don't go nowhere. Don't move. Stay right there. Don't move. But Friday, I'm probably going to open the panel up on this Friday. Okay? That don't mean leave. That means stay right here now. Somebody asked me in the chat, I think it's a bootleg account, why do I look like a teacher? Because I am a teacher. That's what I do. I teach. That's what I do. But yeah. So I'm trying to wait until more people come to class. You know how we have some latecomers and stragglers. Some people just want to come to class late. That's okay. We got time. Come on in. Yeah, come on in. Come on in. I welcome each and every last one of you who are watching the replay of this live. You might not be here live, but you feel like you're here live, even though you're watching the replay of it. I appreciate you. Yo, double salute to another member of the channel, supervisor of the Roll the Tape Film crew, and I'm talking about yours truly, 2 Cents Boxing. 2 Cents Boxing is here, live and living color with us. Real quick, right? I said this before. I'm gonna say this again. And the reason why I said this before is because when I first saw Jared Anderson fighting Martin Bakole, when that fight was first announced, I thought to myself, oh man, this might not be a good look for Jared Anderson, right? Because Martin Bakole is a huge puncher. And I don't want to criticize Jared, but I got to keep it real and be honest, like I always do. And I've been saying this about Jared Anderson, even, and most of you remember this, when I was talking about the fight that Jared Anderson had with Chris Martin. You remember when Chris Martin hurt him, right? He did survive. He definitely did survive, but I saw something in that fight. You know, I definitely saw something in that fight. And a 2 Cents Boxing, I certainly can. I wish somebody put that in the super chat, and I'll go right on and explain the purpose of matchmaking in the sport of boxing and how the sport would be affected without it. Oh, absolutely. If somebody can put that in the super chat and support the channel, I will definitely break down with explanation the purpose of matchmaking in the sport of boxing, okay? And how the sport would be affected without it. I think that's very, very important. Absolutely. But we have to also consider this when we look at Jared Anderson fighting Martin Bakole, right? Before the fight. And I did consider this. I did. Once I saw the fight, you know, when they was building it up, when they were promoting the fight, I said to myself, I don't know. Might not be a good fight for Jared Anderson because his chin got tested against Chris. And I was like, Chris Martin really hurt him. And I know him getting in there with Martin Bakole, it's like, man. But I was like, you know what? What's on the line for him? What's at stake for him before I just totally write off the fact that it wasn't really a good matchmaking opportunity for Jared Anderson? You know, in other words, it wasn't beneficial for him at the time of his career. And then I said, you know what? When I look at the fact that the NABF title was on the line because it was vacant, and most of you that may not know what the NABF stands for, it stands for North American Boxing Federation. And it's a regional title. And then also the WBO International title was on the line. Both, of course, in the heavyweight division. And I said, you know what, that might be a good opportunity for Jared Anderson. You know, because of course, in boxing, and I'll teach you all this, in boxing, you have your local level, right? I taught some of you this a long time ago when I first entered the scene on YouTube. I was teaching you all this, and I want to reframe it again so that everybody who were not here in the very beginning of my tenure and the origins of me starting this channel, you may have came along later on, which is great. I'll teach it new to you all, and then of course I'll reframe it for those that already heard it almost 2 years ago. But when we look at Jared Anderson, right, him being on the level that he's on, and when I say level, I mean it in the sense of him still learning on the job. I mean, Jared Anderson had, what, 17 professional fights at the time of his last fight, 15 by way of knockout. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Let me pull him up again. Yeah, I was right. 17 wins, no losses. So he was undefeated. 15 of those 17 wins have come by way of knockout, right? And so when you look at where Jared Anderson is in his career, that's a good look for him. You got your local level, you have your regional level, then you have your world level. And I'm talking about level of competition, level of expectation, right? And level of marketability. So when I talk about those levels, those are the 3 levels in boxing, if you didn't know. So I'm going to teach it to you. And then I'm going to segue into answering 2 Cents Boxing question, because double salute to her. 2 Cents Boxing gave our first, but definitely not our last super chat of the evening in our question about me explaining the purpose of matchmaking in boxing and how the sport of boxing would be affected without it. And so that helps me segue right into it. But before I get into answering that question and using that question as a teachable moment for each and every last one of you watching live and live in color, let me welcome everybody that's in the chat. I appreciate you coming out. Everybody watching me live and live in color, I appreciate you as well. Thank you for contributing with your time. And also, listen now, you know we have to listen. You know that we have to do what we do on this side of the camera so that you can get the experience on your side of the camera. And that only comes with your support. So I appreciate all of the contributions that's going to be made tonight with your monetary resources. I'm thanking you all in advance. And as soon as super chats come up, super stickers, cash apps, I will publicly acknowledge you and acknowledge them right here, live and live in color. If you don't know, I'm going to give it to you now because it's not going to come across your screen just yet. Only because if we're using a different platform like StreamYard, then you'll be able to see it at the bottom of your screen. And that is the Cash App, $ Manager Marty. Feel free to contribute. It allows us to do what we do on this side to defray the costs and expenses to produce quality content and continue to just come back each and every day and publish good content so that you can be entertained, but most importantly, so that you can be educated. Now, with that being said, right, Jared Anderson was on that level. You know, he was on that level of 17 in the hole, 15 knockouts. He was on that level where he was ready to compete for those vacant titles, the NABF and the WBO international titles. But it was the level of opposition that concerned me, because we saw how Jared Anderson struggled, you know, towards the end of his fight with Chris Martin, when Chris Martin rocked him. And if it was about 10 more seconds left on the bell, Jared might have been dropped or stopped. We don't know. But he definitely survived. And, you know, that allowed him to have subsequent fights following that. And, of course, that led to him fighting Martin Bacoli. And we saw what happened in that fight, where he got knocked out. Excuse me, he got TKO'd, but he got knocked down multiple times, including in the first round. And really after that, he never had a full opportunity to recover. And I was a little bit disappointed in his corner, because one of the things I do, And I hope some people adopt this method when you're looking at and watching boxing on TV live, right? Listen to the instructions that the corner of each fighter either give or do not give. Don't pay too much attention to the commentating. Because a lot of times, and this is no disrespect to none of the commentators, but a lot of the times it's designed for the commentators to be biased. And we're going to talk about that later on, and I'll unravel all of why I'm saying that. But what you really need to do is start paying close attention to whether or not the corner of these fighters are given adequate instruction. That's what I listen for, instruction. And I'm talking about during the rest period. Each fighter have 60 seconds after each round is over. When the round is completed, the bell ring, each fighter go in their respective corners, and they are to receive a 60-second rest period. And in that rest period, their trainers are really supposed to give them instruction or give them motivation on how they should make the adjustments, or to either resume to the great things that they're doing inside of the ring moving forward as the fights progress, right? Even heading into the next round. So always listen, to whether or not the trainers are given adequate instruction. And when I say adequate, because you can give a fighter instruction as a trainer, but if it doesn't apply to the adjustments that they need to make in the next round, it makes no sense, right? And I think fighters need motivation as well. So it's a combination of, motivation and instruction. And when I hear the trainers not giving instruction or not giving motivation, I don't know why. I take it personal. It bothers me. It bothers me. And y'all should see this. When I'm watching fights on TV and 30 seconds had gone by, 30 seconds out of the 60-second rest period has gone by, and next thing you know, I'm like, where's the instruction? You got 25 seconds left to make an impression on this young man or this young lady. Let me hear instruction. Let me hear motivation. Tell that fighter what he or she should do to win the next round. Show it. Let me hear it. And then when I don't hear it, I do talk to the TV every now and then. And I get bothered by that. And so in Jared Anderson's corner, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear instruction. In fact, Jared Anderson came out in the subsequent rounds that he was hurt, and he was really trying to still bang it out. He was trying to bang it out with Martin Bakole. And I'm like, yo, why is he trying to go fist for fist, blow for blow with this guy? And he just got knocked down. Instead of holding, and he did every now and then try to hold Martin. But, Martin was a big guy. Let's be clear here. Martin was 285 pounds at the weigh-in. And I think Jared Anderson was about 234 pounds. Matter of fact, I got the stats right here. Actually, let me be clear. Let me back up. Bakole was 284 and a half pounds on the night of the weigh-in, which was the night before the actual fight. And then Anderson weighed in at 252 and a half pounds. So we see the difference, almost a 30-pound difference. And then you talking about rehydrating, Martin Bakole rehydrating, on the day of the fight. He weighed a lot. Listen, there's no excuses because the heavyweight division is the heavyweight division, right? There is no maximum limit. So it is what it is. But if you look at the fight, you can tell that there was a size disparity between the two. And when Jared Anderson got hurt and got knocked down, that was the first time that we all have seen that in a professional fight. And on top of that, that was the first time his cornermen seen that in a professional fight. And sometimes the corner, and this is unfortunate, but the corner sometimes start panicking when it's the first time their fighter go down, especially the way that Anderson went down. He did get back up after the first round, but after that, he kept trying to bang it out with Martin, and it costed him. And so when I thought about it after the fight, because I called it, and I was watching the fight with a few friends of mine, a couple of my homies. We call each other brothers, you know what I mean? My brothers or whatever, my homies, my good close friends. We were watching the fight, and I told him, as soon as Jared Anderson got knocked down, I told him, I said, "Dude, this fight over. Jared done." I knew he was done. I know when a fighter, there's two things I know about fighters when they're competing inside the ring in live time. And most of you who have been a part of this channel as a family member and a supporter of this channel, you know that I've been spot on every time I call it. And that is when, because I do live commentary too. I haven't done it in a little minute. I do live commentary too. There's two things I know for sure. Number one, when a professional boxer is competing in the ring and their performance is enhanced. I know it. I've been around boxing a long time. And I also know when a professional boxer is competing in the ring when they're hurt. And so I know those two things. And when Jared Anderson fought Martin, I knew he was hurt. And when he got up and I saw him trying to bang it out with Martin, I already knew that it was his heart. And he has a lot of heart. And I think Jared Anderson deserved credit. He has a lot of heart, but heart don't win fights all the time. You still have to use, intelligence in that ring. Even when you're fatigued, even when you're hurt as a fighter, physically hurt, and so Cash Crypto, what's up? See, I'm sorry, y'all. He stopped me right in my tracks because Cash Crypto, he was in the chat. He said, Mac Marty. Mac Marty's activated. You know that. Listen, I'm activated. Ain't all things activated. AG64 activated. P Flame activated. But see, now that's what I want to get to, J Pit City. I want to get, that's why I'm giving people the replay of the fight verbally so that when I finish laying the foundation, you'll understand why the title says that Bob Arum curved Jared Anderson. And we're going to talk about that right now. Because Bob Arum can say all these things, especially in the interview he did with Dan Raphael, and talked about, he personally wouldn't have put Jared Anderson in there with Martin. But Turkey put Turkey, is his name Turkey Al-Shiki, put the money up. And of course, the money that Jared Anderson was offered, he couldn't refuse it. And I get it, right? But here's the thing that people are not including in the elements of making a fair assessment when it comes to Jared Anderson fighting Mike. Let me ask the chat a question. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Does Jared Anderson have a boxing manager? Don't Google it. I'm just asking you right off the cuff. Does Jared Anderson have boxing representation? Does he have a professional licensed manager that represents him? It's just yes or no. Real quick in the chat. Let's get some engagement. Let's get some engagement going as I'm trying to prove a point here. Does Jared Anderson have boxing representation? Please don't Google it. Don't stay right here and don't move. Don't go out your screen because I'm trying to teach you something. Does Jared Anderson have boxing representation? Okay, somebody said no. I know the answer, but I want to know if you all know the answer. I want to get some engagement in the chat now. Come on in. Does Jared Anderson have a boxing manager? Does he have boxing representation? I want to see if we can get some engagement in the chat. And I'm definitely going to answer 2 Cent Boxing's question, which is why I'm segueing all this into answering that question. Okay, that's a good answer, Cash. Let me tell you, Jared Anderson has the same boxing manager that Shakur Stevenson has. Oh, yes. Shakur Stevenson and Jared Anderson have the same manager. Yes, I am talking about Houston, Texas' own Jay Prince. Yeah. James Prince. Y'all know who Jay Prince is. You know he used to be Floyd Mayweather's manager before Floyd Mayweather met Al Heyman. Y'all remember that? Okay. So, yes, Jared Anderson does have boxing representation. Jay Prince is his manager. So, Bob Arum is the promoter of Jared Anderson. So now I can use this as a teachable moment. Now, Bob Arum is saying, according to what we just heard in the chat, that if it was up to him, he would not have allowed Jared to get in the ring with Martin. But let me be clear on something so we all can be on the same page, so I can teach you all the business of boxing. You ain't gonna find this nowhere else. That's why I'm glad you're here. You see, some of y'all that's on here now, your favorite content creator don't have the knowledge. And that's why I'm glad you're here. And I also have to say this because this is equally as important. Your favorite content creator watch me to get the knowledge, and then they regurgitate what I say on their platform. Some of them, they do that. And it's okay. And most of them don't give me the credit and say, I learned this from Manager Marty. And guess what? I've learned over the last 2 years that it's all good. It's okay. As long as you know, as long as you, the audience, know where they got it from, even if they don't acknowledge me, I know that the Road to Tape Film Crew members are always going to support and acknowledge me, so it don't bother me not one bit. Now, I've already given this knowledge before, but this is an opportunity for me to do it again. Bob Arum said if it was up to him. Let me tell you a secret. It was up to him. You're not going to find this nowhere else, y'all. I'm to tell you that right now. It was up to Bob Arum. Let me reframe that. Jared Anderson is promoted by Top Rank, right? Was this event a Top Rank card? In other words, was Bob Arum the main promoter of this event when Jared Anderson fought Martin Bakole? Let me see if y'all remember. I'm just going to see if y'all remember. No. Thank you, Cleveland. Appreciate that. No. This was not a Top Rank Inc. event. It was a litany of promoters who came together, right? And had the fighters that they represent a part of this one card. You want to know why? Because Turkey, I think his last name is Al-Shiki. Turkey Al-Shiki. I always mispronounce his name, his last name. But the guy Turkey was the one who put the money up for all of these fighters to compete. A side and B side, right? Okay, now that we got that established, Bob Arum said if it was up to him, he wouldn't have let Jared Anderson fight Martin Bakole. But it was up to him because Jared Anderson is signed to Top Rank, right? Top Rank Inc. Top Rank Promotions, right? It was really called Top Rank Inc., but y'all know it's a promotion company that Bob Arum is the founder and CEO of, right? Okay, so this wasn't a full-fledged Top Rank event. Because if it was a full-fledged Top Rank event, then Jared Anderson obviously would have been the headline on this card. And on top of that, all of the resources would have to come from and go to Bob Arum. So when Bob Arum said if it was up to him, Jerry Anderson wouldn't have been in the ring with Martin Bacoli. But it was up to him. Wanna know why? Because before Jerry Anderson can agree and say, yes, I will take the offer that's laid on the table for me from Turkey, he had to get the authorization from his promoter, who was Bob Arum, because he's competing on another promoter's card at another promoter's event. And I taught y'all this over a year ago. Remember? Some of you were here, the Roller Tape Film Crew family. Y'all remember. Y'all know this. I taught y'all that anytime a professional boxer who signed under a guaranteed contract exclusively with a promoter, anytime that fighter competes and render their services on another promoter's card, the promoter who has an exclusive rights to that fighter must receive a certain percentage. Typically, it's between 20 to 30% of the purse of the fighter. So if Bob Arum is saying, if it was up to him, he wouldn't have let Jerry Anderson fight Martin Bacoli, well, Jerry Anderson would have never been able to get in the ring to fight Martin Bacoli unless Bob Arum gave him the authorization to compete on another promoter's card. So that means that Bob Arum received a percentage in exchange for allowing Jerry Anderson to render his services to another promoter. Right? Okay, now that we have that clarified, let's move on to my next point. Who else has the authority to authorize Jerry Anderson to fight Martin Bacoli? You've guessed it, his manager. That's right, Jay Prince, the manager. In order for Jerry Anderson to even receive any compensation, any contract, any offers, they have to go through the manager first. And that was Jay Prince. And you know, of course, if Jerry Anderson competed, which he did, that means that the manager gave authorization as well. So, with that being said, Jerry Anderson's purse got split way before he even threw one punch. A percentage of his purse went to Bob Arum, and a percentage of his purse went to his manager. Right or wrong? So it sounds good that Bob Arum said it was up to him. But it was up to him. And that's because the money that was offered to Jerry obviously was enough for Jerry Anderson to say yes after he configured that he had expenses. And that expense was to his promoter, Bob Arum, and the other expense was to his manager. It's just the cost of doing business. And so I'm teaching you all the business. Thank you, 2 Cents Boxing, for that. Thank you, 2 Cents, for being a good moderator. I appreciate that. Now, with that being said, Jerry Anderson already had technical flaws. I've been saying that before, which is good because he's still green in the business. He's still learning on the job. But if you look at the fights that he was in prior to the Martin Bacoli fight, these were guys that had good records. So it was good business for him to be in the ring with the previous opposition. They were moving Jared Anderson in such a way where, yes, the competition was stiffer, but at the same time, it gives him the opportunity to hone in on his craft in his quest and journey to become a world champion. And so going the regional route first with the NABF and of course the WBO International, that was a good move. But Jared Anderson is right now where he is as a professional boxer. He is at that crossroad where he has to make a decision on whether or not he wants to do this or not as a professional. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised personally if he actually retired. Me personally, I wouldn't be surprised. Double salute to my guy, Sin Ironheart. He's a member of the channel, supervisor of the Roll to Tape film crew. Good to see you, Ironheart. I wouldn't be surprised if he said, you know what? That was my first loss. I already had 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the sport of boxing. I'm good. I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, because he's still young, I also wouldn't be surprised if he says, you know what? I'm going to go back to the drawing board, and then I'm going to regroup, and then I'm going to move forward and turn this loss into a lesson and come back stronger, better, and more polished than ever. And I wish Jared Anderson nothing but the best. Now, let me answer 2 Cents Boxing's question, and then I'm going to get to this whole Teofimo Lopez versus Terence Crawford debacle. First and foremost, let's be clear with something. Matchmaking in boxing is extremely important. Now, most of you are not here because I've had thousands and thousands and thousands of new subscribers since then, and more family members who was included into the Roll the Tape film crew family. And I'm talking about back in 2022, when I first came on the scene in October of 2022. Then I start making head waves, and then I start making headlines in December of 2022. And then months after that, I found myself embroiled in a beef with a guy, you all know who he is. I'm going to say his name anyway. Blue Blood Sports TV. Y'all remember that? Okay. And he called himself a matchmaker. I remember that. In fact, he actually was on Everything Boxing's channel. And some of y'all might have been over there that night. This was about 1.5 years ago. Or, you know, and I was on the channel as well. I was there on the panel. I was there. Monty Brown was there. And Blue Blood Sports TV came up there. And I asked Blue Blood Sports TV because he was talking about him being a part. He did a video and he was talking about how he was basically a part of the process of trying to matchmake Terence Crawford versus Jaron Boots Ennis at the time where Terence Crawford was signed to BLK Prime. This is way after Terence Crawford fought David Evanesian. Y'all remember that? Okay. So the whole thing about matchmaking came up, and then I asked Blue Blood some questions since he called himself like the matchmaker and he wanted to take all the credit for matchmaking, which he never matchmade anything. I guess he tried, but the way he went about it, because of his lack of knowledge in the business, it's not a knock on him. He just don't know any better. He was just, gung-ho to be a part of something, which was great. It's no problem. Boxing need more hands. I guess we have enough hands in the business, but the bottom line is that most people didn't understand what matchmaking was about. So a lot of people was believing in the hype when Blue Blood was coming out with, oh man, I'm the one that put this fight together. I'm the one that tried to link everybody together, the matchmake between Boots against Bud. And of course, we know the fight never materialized. And I'm talking about right after Boots fought Karen. And then, of course, it was after Terence Crawford, a month prior to that, when Terence Crawford fought David Ebenezer. And so I gave a teachable moment to that situation to help people understand what matchmaking is. And so now I'm bringing it all the way back for the new audience, those of you that were not here and didn't probably even know anything about me. But now I can bring it all the way back, and then I can still use the question that Two Cents Boxing asked me so that you can be educated on the business of boxing. That's what this channel is all about if this is your first time here. I give entertainment too. I give entertainment. I have multiple characters that I use to emphasize different topics. But, you know, today, I'm just Manager Marty. Asante L, what's going on with you, big dog? What's going on, Dean? You know we going to roll the tape. Now, 2 Cents Boxing in a super chat, she asked me this question. She said, can you explain the purpose of matchmaking in boxing and how the sport would be affected without it? Now, there is a matchmaker, and I keep saying his name over and over and over again, giving him his flowers while he's still here to smell them. You've heard me mention his name for the last year and a half, over and over again. And he's one of the best in the business, Hall of Fame matchmaker, the one who is employed by Bob Arum, Top Rank. And yes, y'all know his name already, right? I don't have to tell you. Do I have to tell you his name again? Some of y'all already know I'm going to keep saying his name because he's hands down one of the best in the business, if not the best. He just is. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Let's see who my day one supporters are. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? They know. Right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Let me see the chat. Let me see, because I need some engagement. Cash Crypto said it right in the chat. My God. Brad Goodman. You see how people be learning? That's what I love about teaching. Brad Goodman. So Brad Goodman is the matchmaker for Top Rank, right? We got Kevin Rooney Jr. He matchmakes a lot. He does a good job. I can go on and on with matchmakers in this business. You know what I mean? I work with a few matchmakers as well in the business as a manager, of course. Most of the matchmakers go through me to, like if I was representing a fighter, right? The matchmaker won't call the fighters directly. You know, they have to call the representation to negotiate on behalf of the fighters. I'm talking about the ones that I would represent. Now let's get down to the purpose of matchmaking. So one of the things that first of all, somebody got to correct somebody. Al Heyman is not a matchmaker. Somebody in the chat said Al Heyman is the best matchmaker in the business. I don't know what YouTuber told you that, but Al Heyman is not a matchmaker. But I just want to educate you on that. Al Heyman is not a matchmaker. Okay, but here's the thing. So matchmakers are important because they're the ones, the matchmakers are the ones who are employed by the promoters, right? So the promoters are the ones who hire matchmakers. Now, majority of the time, the matchmakers are the ones who match up the fights, all right? Now, I'm not saying that promoters don't know how to matchmake. Some promoters do a good job with matchmaking. They do. And some of the promoters started out in the business by matchmaking first before they actually became full-time promoters. But for the most part, all legitimate matchmakers in the business and in the sport of boxing on a professional level all have to go through the process of being licensed by the state commission, all right? Just like a professional fighter, just like a professional manager, just like a professional promoter, okay? So the matchmaker, being licensed, is usually hired by a promoter. And the promoter hires the matchmaker because the promoter has so many other responsibilities. When we talk about the promoter trying to build an event, right? Trying to build capital for an event, trying to gain sponsorship to defray the cost of the expenses and all the other. I don't want to get into all the responsibilities of a promoter, but the promoters facilitate the event. So they hire matchmakers to basically make fights, match the fighters up against each other, right? So the matchmakers spend endless resources and time on the phones trying to encourage fighters through their representation, if they have representation. And if they don't, then the matchmaker will go directly to the fighters or their trainers, but mainly the fighters, and try to galvanize the fighter to be matched with an opponent. And so let me give you a scenario just so that you can understand how this works. Let's use Terence Crawford. Let's use Terence Crawford when he was signed to Top Rank, because we talked about Brad Goodman being a matchmaker, right? So when Terence Crawford was signed to Top Rank, that Bob Arum, the promoter, and Top Rank's whole objective is to build Terence Crawford up in such a way that will give him that marketability, right? That will get the audience to connect with Terence Crawford, so that when Terence Crawford perform and look good, more people will keep buying into his fights. More people will come to his fights. More people would buy the fights on pay-per-view. More eyes will be on the TV screen every time a Terence Crawford fight on, let's say, ESPN network, right? Which was the network that Bob Arum and Top Rank had a contract with, right? So the promoter hires the matchmaker, Brad Goodman. And the whole objective is to make the A side, Terence Crawford in this scenario, look good. So the matchmaker, his job is already done halfway through, because he already have one fighter, which is the A side fighter. All the matchmaker has to do now is to match the A side fighter with a B side opponent. So the matchmaker, once again, spent endless resources and time reaching out to fighters typically either right under the weight class, at the weight class, and even above the weight class, typically below or at the weight class, right? To see the level of competition that will make the A side look good, but also make the fight competitive as possible. And I say look good because most of the time in the business, right, the matchmaker do over, oh man, I'm reading something in the chat, and somebody was acknowledging me and I lost my train of thought. They will overmatch certain opponents. That's just the nature of the business, all across the board in every weight class. So no matchmaker should be criticized for doing it, because all of them do it. So let's say the matchmaker for Top Rank says, okay, we have the A side, Terence Crawford. We need Terence Crawford to look good, because this is how we get our revenue. This is the promoter talking now. This is how we get our revenue from the network. This is how we get the audience, the boxing community, the boxing fans to rally around this fighter and say that this fighter is a good fighter. So the matchmaker is deployed and employed so that the matchmaker can find an opponent that's suitable for the objective of the promoter. Okay? So then the promoter says, we're having an event on October 1st. It's already July. We need some opponents to fill this card. We got 5 of the A-side guys from this promotion on the card. Mr. Matchmaker or Mrs. Matchmaker, we need you to find 5 opponents for all the A-sides that represent this promotion on the card. So let's use somebody like a Terence Crawford. So the matchmaker, right? The matchmaker will go out, and I want to make sure I'm pulling up the stat correctly because I know somebody's going to challenge me, which is great because it's all about fact checking. And the matchmaker will say, okay, I'll go find a suitable opponent so that we can meet the objection. We can meet the objection of our competition, and we can meet the objective of the promotion. Let me see if I can find somebody that's presentable to Terence Crawford and his style that will make Terence Crawford look good on TV. And also, watch this. This is the next part to it. And also, who can sell tickets. Those are the three objectives of the promoter. Make the fighter A side look good, especially for the cameras on TV and the audience. 2, an opponent that can make it an interesting fight, even though the objective is for that B side to lose. But also 3rd, that's going to draw more revenue for the promotion. So the B side has to have a level of marketability themselves in the form of selling tickets and or pay-per-view. So with that being said, right, Brad Goodman, the matchmaker, this happened in real life. That's why I wanted to fact check myself, which I already knew he was the matchmaker when Terence fought Kell Brook. So then look, right? So the matchmaker says, let me go in my contact list, my Rolodex, and see if we can find one fighter that will meet those 3 objectives. Guess whose name comes up? Now, this is Brad Goodman's job. Now, the matchmaker's job is to do all of this searching and surfing and investigating and knowing styles of each fighters, knowing the strengths and weaknesses of A side and B side, right? To meet those 3 objectives. Kell Brook. Let's do the litany test on Kell Brook. Kell Brook was on a 2-year layoff. Well, that's one huge advantage for Terence Crawford to look good. He ballooned up in weight. And how do we know that? Because as the matchmaker, I'm looking at the last time he fought. And he's struggling with the weight. Then now he's got to bring that weight down. That's another huge advantage for the A side Terence Crawford. Okay, that's good. Let's see number 2. Is Kell Brook a good fighter? Yes, he is. He'll make it a little competitive for Terence. He meets the 2nd objective. And let's see if he meets the 3rd objective. Can he sell tickets? Oh, absolutely. He has a whole country behind him. He's from the UK. And the UK fans are going to always support their fighters, no matter if their fighter is 2 wins and 13 losses. But Kell Brook has a winning record. And he was a former world champion. So, Kell Brook meets 3 of the objectives. Let's call Kell Brook and see if he'd be interested in a big payday, Terence Crawford. And guess what happened? Kell Brook agreed to the terms, and Terence Crawford fought Kell Brook, and Terence Crawford looked good against Kell Brook, and Terence Crawford TKO'd Kell Brook. Am I right about it? Okay. So that's matchmaking. In other words, it's a science to matchmaking. It's a skill set in matchmaking. I know I made it sound like real easy, but I did that just so that you can get an understanding, just a basic understanding how important matchmaking is. So one of the purposes of matchmaking is to relieve the promoter of the duties of doing all of what the promoter has to do to build this show, facilitate the event, get all the resources and capital for the event, and if there's a network involved, that process as well, closed circuit, the whole 9, and still have to matchmake, it will be too much for the promoter. So that's why they deploy and employ matchmakers to do all of the heavy lifting. The heavy lifting is in matchmaking. Because if the matchmaking is off, then the entire card is off. And if the entire card is off, you, the boxing community, the fan of boxing, would not pay your time or your money to see a lot of overmatched fights. All right. So that's where the whole matchmaking becomes truly, truly important, especially when you look at a card, let's say Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr., right? That card was a really, really good card. Pitbull Cruz, Nonito Donaire was on that card. Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. That was a good card. Look. The card where Big Baby Jerry Anderson and Martin Bacoli was on. That was a good card. So you see a lot of different good cards where it's like, let's say they got 6 fights, 4 or 5 out of the 6 fights are not overmatched. Man, that's a good card. But remember now, you get what you pay for as a promoter. So now if the card is going to be stacked like that, that means the promoter has to put out money. That Terence Crawford versus Madrimov, that was a good card. Rayo Venezuela against Pitbull Cruz. That was a really good card. But you got to pay how you weigh. And guess what? The matchmaker understands that as well. Want to know why? Because the promoter is going to say, this is the budget for this particular fight. I'm just going to use one number. All right? Just for teaching sake. Just for this one fight, we got $100,000. $100,000 for this fight. So guess what that means? The matchmaker has to be knowledgeable of how many rounds the fight is going to be if she is responsible for matching the card up. So now to exhaust this 100,000, the promoter tells the matchmaker 100,000. 10-round fight. I got the A side right here. Go find me a B side. Guess what the matchmaker going to do? He or she is going to try to do what? Save the promoter money. You understand that? I told you that the matchmaker is deployed and employed by the promoter. So the matchmaker's job is to try the best he or she can to not exhaust all of the 100,000. Double salute to my guy, Victor. Thank you for your contribution and your support to the channel, man, through the super chat. And Victor says, salute, Manager Marty, support for the lesson learning. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Vic. Appreciate you. Now, check this out, right? Let's just say 100,000. I'm just using that number because it sounds good. 10-round fight. Most fighters don't even see that in a 10-round fight. But anyway, the fight's televised. It's televised, all right? 10-round fight. This is just for teachable purposes, okay? Now, 100,000. Now, the A side is already locked into a guaranteed contract. So you know the purse of the A side is already locked in. So let's just say, hypothetically, for a 10-round televised fight, the A side is going to get 50,000. Tell you how this stuff works, y'all. You ain't going to find this nowhere else. So guess how much the matchmaker have to work with? If the A side is getting 50,000 from a $100,000 budget for one fight that's televised on ESPN, I'm just using ESPN, for 10 rounds, A side gonna get 50. It's 100,000. Do the math. It's very simple. Basic arithmetic. That means that there's $50,000 left in this budget for this one fight. So now the matchmaker, knowing this information, has to go out and find an opponent that's going to meet this $50,000 threshold. I'm talking about purse-wise. Purse. Compensation, right? Okay. So the matchmaker is not going to go out there and say, we got $50,000. No. His or her job is to save the promotion money. Because that's how the matchmaker get paid too now. Okay. Now, B side get a phone call from the matchmaker. Look, man, I got $30,000. Fight this fighter, 10 rounds, ESPN. You never had this type of exposure before, right? It's a global network, ESPN is. Take this 30, you win, bigger paydays is gonna come. The fighter that doesn't have representation, who's never seen $30,000 at one time, not knowing that there's 50,000 on the line. Most of the time, oh, they're gonna take that. Wait, it's a 10-round fight. 30,000 at one time on a nationally syndicated platform like ESPN, where all my friends and family gonna watch me fight. Oh man, I'll take that. No representation, by the way, no manager, right? I'll take that. I don't have a manager. This is the fighter thinking. I don't have a manager, so 20 to 30% of that 50 don't have to go to nobody else. Oh, I'll take that. And then guess what happens to that fighter, that B side? I usually probably get knocked out or get beat up real bad. Because, and I'm saying that because, check this out. That's why the matchmaker called in the first place. Thank you. So, here's the flip side to that. Matchmaker called the B side. B side says, I have a manager. You didn't know that? Oh, well, I didn't really know that. Send me your manager's information. So now watch this. Matchmaker can't go directly through the fighter because that fighter in this next scenario I'm presenting has representation, right? So now that's where the manager come into play. This is why I always tell you all that good representation in this business is priceless as the viewership is increasing exponentially. So the matchmaker called a manager. In this scenario, I'm going to insert myself just for teachable purposes. Matchmaker called me on the phone. Hey, Manager Marty, look, we got a great opportunity for one of your fighters. 10 rounds, ESPN, 30,000. Your fighter never seen that much money before, but I promise you, your fighter win this, look, the promoter might even sign your fighter. Look, this going to be bigger paydays. You beat the A side, if your fighter beat the A side, career going skyrocket through the roof. I think you should take this fight, man. It's a good one. Matchmaker all in my ear trying to convince me. 30,000, man, 30,000. Talk to your fighter. Man, y'all can make history. I don't even budge. I sit there, I'm the type of guy, I sit there and let the matchmaker say all that. So you see, get all that out and then ask that question. How much you say again? 30,000, man. Wait, hold up. 30,000? You said on ESPN, right? Yeah, ESPN. Oh man, It's going to be a good one, man. And look, your fighter might even have a chance. Yo, this going to be good. Oh, hold on. You said, wait, how much you say again? See, that's because I know the business. 30,000? Dang, that 30,000? How about 70,000? Oh man, you know we ain't got no 70,000. I mean, you saying that the guy that we're gonna fight is the A side, right? The promoter. No, yeah, I know. He signed to the A side, but I'm just saying, well, hold on, relax. 70. Call the promoter and see if we can get 70 out of it. I can tell you right now, when I go bring this back to my fighter, definitely gonna say yes, with no problem. Matchmaker and I hang up. I already know that he's not gonna have the 70. I already know that he's not gonna give me the 70. I already know that he might not even talk to the promoter. That happens too. Oh, Armin, let me talk to the promoter. I'll call you back. Never gonna talk to the promoter. I don't even talk to my fighter yet, because I know that part is not gonna happen. You wanna know why? Because I'm gonna meet somewhere in the middle and then turn around and make sure we get the money on the back end in other ways. Let me give you an example. I hope I'm teaching you something. I don't want to bore you with this, but I'm trying to give you a visual in your mind so you can understand how the business works behind the scene. You ain't gonna find this information nowhere else. That's why I'm glad you're here. So check this out. We're gonna get to Terence Crawford and T.O. in a minute, but I gotta finish this point. So now, manager, myself, and the matchmaker, we get back on the phone, right? I already know he didn't call a promoter. He knows I didn't call the fighter. We stuck at 70,000. He offered me 30. He comes back. Oh, man, all we can do is 40,000. I said 30,000 first, but 40,000, that's the most we can do. Okay. Let me call you right back now. Let me get the fighter on the phone and see if the fighter's willing to do 40,000. Now remember, the fighter don't even know that they offered the 30,000 in the beginning. I just know that was too low for my fight. I already know that. So there's no point in me wasting the fighter's time, because the fighter gonna get hyped and say, oh man, I ain't scared, I'll fight him. 30,000, I already know. No, we're not gonna do that. So then that's when I really get on the phone and say, look, they offered me 30 at first. But that number is just highly ridiculous. You're fighting on ESPN. I know they have more money than that. How about 40,000? Yeah, I'll do 40. And I say, well, listen, don't forget now. You're saying 40 is cool. But you know I'm gonna need my cut. You know nobody don't want to work for free. That's all I'm saying. So let me see if I can go get you some more money so that you can walk away with more money in your pocket. Oh, okay, go ahead, Manager Marty. I know you got it. I trust you. Go handle it. All right, I'm gonna call you right back. Now, before I get back on the phone with I'm just telling you my business acumen. I'm gonna tell you what my business process is with managers. I don't get back on the phone with the matchmaker all hype. They called us. We didn't call them. We're the B side. They called us. We're trying to help the promotion save their show. I'm not going to get on the phone with the matchmaker again talking about 40,000. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on my phone. I'm going to go right in my phone and go on my contact list. And I'm going to make a phone call or two or three or possibly five. 5 sponsors. 5. A minimum of 5 sponsors. Because remember, we're going to compete. The fighter really is going to compete inside the ring on a nationally syndicated platform like ESPN. And I'm going to try to secure the fighter with sponsorships, so that on the fighter's trunks, there can be logos and advertisement that the fighter can market while he's competing for 10 rounds on a nationally syndicated platform. And guess what's going to happen? The fighter will be compensated in exchange for the advertisement. So now I'm negotiating with 5 different sponsors that's going to be a part of the process of marketing my fighter as the fighter is marketing their brand on a nationally syndicated platform. And then I get on the phone with the matchmaker. And it don't have to be the same day. Most of the time, it's not the same day. Let's say it's a couple days later. I get back on the phone with the matchmaker, having probably secured at least 2 out of the 5 sponsors, and say, all right, listen, I talked to the fighter. 40 is just not enough. But I tell you what, I think because you offered 30, I came back with the counter at 70. You came back with 40. I tell you what, how about we do 50,000? Remember this, see, my leverage is we gonna be fighting on ESPN, right? You said how much, 30? But I thought you said we was gonna fight on ESPN. You was hyping it up. Wait, ESPN, that's a nationally syndicated platform. You said ESPN, right? They don't even cover boxing, right? Oh, okay, so check this out. Let's do it this way. How about $50,000 for the fighter's purse? Watch this. I'm gonna need 5 round trip airfare tickets from the promoter, 5 hotel rooms from the promoter, and you know the fighter, the coach, and the cut man, you know they're gonna need a per diem every day, because you want us to fly out there on Thursday, right? Wednesday or Thursday, so about 4 days of per diem, and we also gonna need that too. Oh man, we can only give you 3 round trip tickets. Listen, brother, I'm just telling you that if you want to get this deal done, the fighter's already ready. He's been in the gym training. It's not like he's coming off of a 2-year layoff and he weighs 100 pounds more than a weight class. We're ready. So it's not like he's not going to be willing to put on a show or put up a fight and really try to win this thing here. Because you want this to be competitive, right? I mean, you don't want the A side just running straight through him for 1 round, and then the promoter just lose 30,000 for 1 round's worth of work. Where they do that at? So let's do it like this: 50,000 for the purse, 5 round trip tickets, airfare, 5 hotel rooms, and 3 per diems. And guess what? The deal is done. You wanna know why? Because I already know that 30,000 was a number that the matchmaker said to save the promotion 20 to 30,000. I get it. It's just business. And so to answer the second part of 2 Cents Boxing question, which was how the sport will be affected without matchmaking. Without matchmaking, we won't see not 1 fight we want to see. Not 1. Because you got to understand something. The promoter has to somehow, some way recoup their initial investment. They have to at some point. And so if you have a promoter who's been kicking out money after money after money to help build these fighters per fighter that they have in their stable, that they have representing their promotion company as they're representing the fighter, and every opponent is overmatched at some point, you, the audience, is going to get fed up with it. If one fighter fight 20 people that was nowhere near on his or her level, at some point you're going to say, all right, I've seen this fighter 15 times on TV. When are we going to see this fighter increase their level of competition? Because you know why? It's important, because how can a fighter who had 20 overmatched opponents be eligible for a world championship title and make you, the audience, believe he or she's going to win against the actual champion that they're going to contend against? You're not. And then how is the promoter going to recoup off the investments that they've made in this fighter to build this fighter up, put this fighter into contention, pay all of the monies that it costs to do that, and then turn around and make an appeal to a network like an ESPN, because that's where most of the bread comes from, the network. How is a promoter going to make an appeal for a network to give the promoter money on behalf of the fighters of their stable to put on good fights when none of the fights from the A sides are going to be good? Because now the network is going to come out and say, wait a minute, we paid you X amount of dollars for 15 fights in the next 6 months, and all you've been producing were first round knockouts. And that's good, but we could have basically kept some of that money if we was not going to get the level of service in exchange. And so then that affects the promotion's bottom line. So it has to be some kind of appeal to the audience, the paying audience. Have to be some kind of appeal to the networks, the paying networks. So the level of fights have to at some point be competitive enough to galvanize you to pay for it, and to galvanize the network to say, this is not just an ESPN Plus broadcast. This is an ESPN Plus pay-per-view broadcast. And who does the footwork, the arm work, the leg work to get it done? The matchmakers. The matchmakers. And they're behind the scenes working, but they don't get all of the credit. So the sport would be affected greatly if you didn't have good matchmakers. If you think fighters are cherry picking now with matchmakers, when the fighters don't really control nobody that they fight, for real, then how do you think it would look if there was no matchmakers? Who's going to set the fights up? If the promoter has other responsibilities to make this event pleasable or pleasurable for the audience and the networks, if the promoter has to do the matchmaking as well. So it's definitely important. They're behind the scenes working very hard, the matchmakers. And that's why they're licensed to do the job that they do. And they have a very tough job, seriously. And if, in fact, a matchmaker is turned down, which they do get turned down a lot when they reach out to A side or B side opponents, it makes their job much harder. So yes, matchmaking is the bread and butter of a boxing event. Oh yes, it's the foundation. And that's why having a good matchmaker from a perspective of a promoter is extremely important. Because look, when a fighter is 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 8-0, 10-0, 12-0, yeah, the fighter deserves credit. They're in the ring producing and performing. But behind the scenes, the matchmaker is the one who went out and found the right opponents to make that fighter look as good, because the matchmaker has studied and knows the strengths and weaknesses of the fighters. Turki Alashiki, or Alashik, whatever his name is, he is not matchmaking any fights. He's not match-made one fight. He hires matchmakers like every other promoter does. It's just the standard of the business. But Eddie Hearn, because I see what you're saying, Two Cents Boxing, but Eddie Hearn is agreeing to those terms, right? Bob Arum are agreeing to the terms. Oscar De La Hoya is agreeing to the terms. In other words, is Turki Alashiki is saying, look, this is the money I got. And this is the money I'm willing to pay for this fight, that fight, this fight, and that fight. And if the promoter says, okay, then obviously the promoter believes their fighter is going to win. And bottom line is, if any of these fighters that perform under the Rydell, hope I'm saying that word right, promotion, their promoter is getting the cut. Believe that. It's just the nature of the business. And I hope someone was educated. I hope you learned at least one thing about the sport and business of boxing that you didn't know before you came here. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Teofimo Lopez versus Terence Crawford. Teofimo Lopez made some references about Terence Crawford and others, particularly other black fighters, including Terence Crawford, of being a monkey. He used the reference of monkeys and he used the reference of bananas. Now, people all over the YouTube boxing community are making references that Teofimo Lopez is racist for those comments because he's not black or African American, but he is using monkey and banana references towards black fighters, encouraging them to fight him. I don't recommend Teofimo Lopez even using any of that language toward any fighter, let alone a black fighter. So I can't approve of what Teofimo Lopez said about Terence Crawford and the other black fighters he referenced as monkeys and bananas. You just can't do that when you're, and Teofimo, he know. Teofimo know that. And so I don't know if he's just doing that for publicity. I don't know if he's just doing that to get under Terence Crawford's skin. I don't want to accuse that man of being racist because I don't have any concrete evidence of him actually being racist. I'm talking about as a person now, meaning that he hates another race just off of the merit of their skin color. I don't have no proof of that, so I can't say that. But that do sound like a racist comment that he said. And we know that Teofimo Lopez, thank you, sweetheart, Dory. We know that Teofimo Lopez have a history of clout chasing and saying and doing some crazy stuff that most average people just won't do, right? But Terence Crawford took it like, look, I don't care if you clickbaiting me or clout chasing me or not. I'm going to take it serious and we can rumble outside the ring. I'll pull up on you and we can just knuckle it up. Because Terence Crawford from Omaha, Nebraska. And you know Terence Crawford don't back down from nothing or nobody. So he took it the street route, Terence Crawford did, by inviting Teo to rumble outside the ring. Like, we don't even have to fight in the ring. Since you talking like that, when I see you, we can just knuckle it up. We can just rumble it and bang it out without any boxing gloves on. I mean, that's how Terence Crawford responded. But here's the part about the audience, the boxing community, that I don't get. Teofimo Lopez, whether he said it or not, Teofimo Lopez not moving up to 154 to fight no Crawford. I mean, it sounds good. He even talked about Tank Davis. He said the same thing about him. Monkey, banana, right? And we know Tank Davis is black. Teofimo Lopez is not fighting Terence Crawford at 154 pounds. We know this. Now, since Teofimo Lopez is interested in fighting, how about he fight somebody like maybe Devin Haney, someone that's in his weight class at 140? We love to see that because the last time I saw Teofimo fight back in June, was that June or July? I think that was in June. The last time I saw him fight, I mean, he won. I mean, you know, the judges, you know, did a good job. I mean, they didn't really have any issues with judging that fight because Teo did win, but Teofimo didn't look good in that last fight. I mean, that guy was pressing on Teo against the ropes, and Teo didn't look good. And I'm talking about the last fight a couple months ago. And if he think he gonna fight Bud or anybody else, even if he think he gonna fight Devin like that, his career almost over anyway. Fighting like that, and that's not just that fight. I'm talking about the last couple of fights. Don't forget, Teo. You know, I believe that Jermaine Ortiz beat Teofimo Lopez. Now, I know some people disagree with me when we talked about that fight and the reaction to that fight after that happened before this last fight from Tio. You know what I mean? That's what I think. I think Jermaine Ortiz beat Teofimo Lopez. That's just me. I thought Sandor Martin beat Teofimo Lopez. That's just me. So all I'm saying is his last 3 out of 4 outings, to me, didn't really look good for Tio. So him talking about fighting Crawford, we know that's not going to happen. He's in a totally different weight class than Terence Crawford. So I'm not taking him serious at all, talking about he want Crawford. I'm not taking him serious at all, saying he's going to fight Tank, because Tank is in a different division, and so is Bud Crawford. But what Tio can do is start calling people out that's in his actual division. I mean, that's what I think. I know that Jermaine Ortiz talked about moving up. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight again in a rematch. But I know Jermaine don't, he said he don't feel like he was treated fairly in that fight. He think the judges cheated him out of a win. So he probably don't want to revisit that. But I mean, there's other people that Teofimo can fight at 140. And I'd like for him to call those guys out. And I actually would like for him to really start trying to become unified for once. I mean, like all the belts at once. I mean, that would be nice, because he does a lot of talking. We know Teofimo does a lot of antics. He does a lot of, publicity stunts. So I don't know if he was, like I said, I don't know if he was just doing this just to clout chase or just to make a racist remark, but it's unacceptable. And we already know that Teofimo's not fighting Bud. We're not even going to keep wasting any of our resources even talking about the possibility of these two guys fighting. It just makes no kind of sense to me. If anybody in the chat or the comment section watching the replay of this live can tell me who else can Teofimo Lopez fight, that would be great. Besides Terence Crawford, because he's not in the same division as Crawford. I told you that the other day. Tank Davis, he's not going to fight Tank. Tank is not in his division either. But somebody at 140. Maybe we can start there. That's the only credence I'm going to give Teofimo Lopez when he's talking about fighting someone. Now, of course, it's too late for him to fight this year, but I would like to see Teofimo get in there probably by March of next year. Oh, that's a good one. Who said that? Well in the Matrix. Progress. Progress is fighting Catterall this weekend. Maybe Teofimo can fight the winner of that fight. They both 140. We shall see. I agree with you, Greg. It's definitely been downhill for Teo since that Loma fight. I haven't seen him in the, because, he lost to Cambosos as well. So I haven't really seen him. I mean, he did win against other fighters, but it's like, okay, you beat this guy. He did win. You gotta give him credit. He won, got the belt. Then the belt got snatched right off of him. Who that? Rashid Weeks? Hey, Rashid. Teofimo don't want no work with Boots. He can hang that up. He know he better not call Boots out. He don't want no work with Boots. L Dub Boxing, what's up? Good to see you, my man. Oh, I would like to see that, L Dub. I would like to see that, because that's going to be a good fight. Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barboza. That's going to be a good fight. He can fight the winner of them. Yeah, he can fight the winner of them. Or, I mean, I like Regis Prograis, but those guys, I don't know. Catterall and Regis, they kind of like on the same, level. That's going to be that's going to be an all right fight. Huh? 2 Cents asked me a question. Can you tell when a fighter stood? Oh, stop. Marty, can you tell when a fighter stopped enhancing their performance? Absolutely. I can tell when a fighter is on performance enhancements, when they stop performance enhancements, and when the fighter is hurt. I can tell. No doubt about it. And every time I call it out, it was true. Absolutely. I sure can, 2 cents. No doubt about it. Every time I called out when I saw fighters and performance enhance, came true. Now remember, let me say this before we go. I'm not saying legal or illegal. Y'all always try to catch me up in a lawsuit. You ain't gonna catch it. Because I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not defaming nobody's character. I'm calling it like it is. Like I always do. I'll leave that to the experts. Whether someone's doing something legal or illegal, I'll leave that to the experts. I'm not an expert. I had an expert up here. I had an expert on this channel, not once, twice. Not once, twice. The first time, 3 hours. The second time, 2 hours. 5 hours of live content, live dialogue with the expert of doping. He was here. Hey, I'm just telling you. He be on 2 Cents Boxing comment section now. But you know what would be great? I'm going to leave with this since we're talking about performance enhancement. I would love to see. I'm going to reach out to the guy. Because you know he still owe me some money. Hey, Ironheart, Cash Crypto, you know that man owe me some money. 2 Cents Boxing, you know the guy I'm talking about. You know he still owe me some money. You know the man owe me some money. You know he do. I might reach out to the guy and ask him to come on back. Because that was almost a year ago when he came. Wouldn't that be great, y'all? Wouldn't that be nice to have Victor Conti come right back? Let's have a dialogue since all of this controversy has come out. And he said to me that he loved the channel. He said he's a fan of mine. Do y'all remember that? That's what he told me. And he said he'd be more than welcome to come back. I'm going to email him and see if he, Hey, Greg, let me tell you a secret. I got to take my glasses off to say this because I made history in boxing. Did you know, this is a fun fact, I am the first and only non-athlete who received a promo code in my name from the SNAP program. Isn't that awesome, AJ64? That's all. It sounds good to me. I made history in boxing, and no one talks about that. Hey, listen, what else can I say, Ironheart? You know what I mean? Hey, Greg, you know I have no problem going to get my money. You know that. I'm going to see if Victor will come back. 2 Cents Boxing, I know he's been, I think he's been, I don't know the last time he's been commenting on your channel. But if you talk to him again, tell him I asked about him. I'm going to unblock him. I'm definitely going to unblock him. He was being disrespectful a little bit. That's why I had to block him. But I'm going to unblock the guy. I'm going to unblock him. I'd love for him to come back. I think that would be even more better. Like him coming a third time. Ooh, to sit down and talk to the big dog. Awesome. Awesome content. Hey, look. And guess what? He can go bring his friend with him this time. He can bring her with him this time. And I'll talk to both of them. Yeah, I'm talking about the one who told him to come over here in the first place. I talked to both of them in the same day, at the same time. But I'd rather just for Victor for right now. Because me and her, we got to deal with some other issues that we got first. But with me and Vic, oh, it'd be a great conversation. I'd love for him to come over. If any of you talk to him, tell him I asked about him, please. Just say, Manager Marty asked about you. He called me Captain Clickbait. You know, I forgive the guy. It's nothing. I'd love for him to come. I'm going to send him an email before the week is out. See if we can get him back on. I'm sure he'd love it. I'm sure, listen, there's nothing but dialogue. You know what I mean? We'll see. I'll do that for the Roller Tape Film Crew members. I'll do that. Before I do that, let me ask I got to get a general consensus on this. Do you all think that I should listen, when you at the cookout, you got to have conversation. All the lives that I do, every live is a family barbecue, is a family cookout. So let me ask the family, can I get some feedback in the chat, family? Should I reach out to him and ask him to come on back over to have a conversation with me? Because a lot of things happened since last December, you know? A lot of videos I put out, you know what I mean, of him, and he said this and that. Oh, Dory, she said no. She said forget him. Dory, listen, you know when the ladies speak, you know, I got to consider what the ladies say too now. Greg and Ironheart said yes, absolutely. 2 Cents said no. That's two women that told me no. See, y'all be calling me Mac Marty, so you know I got to listen to the ladies too now, fellas. I gotta hear them out too. Man, anybody else talking about something else in the chat? I need a tiebreaker. I had two people that say yes, two that said no. You think I should ask the guy to come on back over and have a conversation with me? Let's talk. Somebody said, yeah, it's just a cookout. Grab a plate. I like that. We're going to see. I'm going to think about it. Because two of the ladies told me no. Scott said he ain't coming back. Ironheart said he's not coming back. I'll think about it. I won't hit him up this week. I'll redact that. I'll think about it. Because I do want to consider everybody's, opinion and what y'all think. Because we family. Y'all know how we do when we come to the cookout. Oh, I got his phone number too. I definitely have his phone number. I forgot I got his number. He don't have my number. I forgot I can call him too. Hey, 2 Cents. That might be the determining factor of me not calling. Hey, look in the chat. I'm not going to repeat what she said. Y'all got to look in the chat and see what 2 Cents Boxing said. And if you're watching the replay of this live, all you got to do is scroll down at the bottom of your screen and look at what 2 Cents Boxing said. Because that's the truth. That's the facts. I'm not even going to repeat it. I'm not even going to repeat what she said because it's true. I did. I did, 2 Cents. I already did. Yes. Greg, that's a good idea, Greg. Hey, Greg, email me, man. I sent your email, Greg. I sent your email earlier today. Email me back, Greg, if you can. Listen, y'all, I'm doing way too much talking. Don't take my word for it.